Good evening, good afternoon, whatever time, or morning, whatever time of the world, or whatever part of the world you're in. I am R.C. Blakes, and I am excited to be able to talk to you today. I'm just jotting down a thought that goes along with our discussion for today. Reinventing your life. Reinventing your life. And I'll tell you where the inspiration for this discussion comes from. I deal a lot with not only millennials. I thank God that I have a connection with millennials, and they feel a connection with me. That's a blessing for a 54-year-old man at this time to be able to reach and to communicate with millennials. But I also have a great part of the demographic that follows me is middle age, or middle-aged people, middle age and up, you know. And I get the question quite a lot, you know, what do I do at this stage in life? You know, the children are gone. In some cases, sad as it is, the marriage has ended. And the better days of the career are behind me, if that career is not completely and totally ended. And now I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting here, I almost feel like I'm on the ash heap of a former existence. I'm sitting here just kind of looking at what used to be. And I still have a lot of life in front of me. I still have half of my life in front of me. But I really don't know what to do with myself, because I spent all of my previous years building the life that has now come to an end. Sometimes just through the natural progression of time, and then sometimes unforeseen circumstances have brought the former life to an end. And the person is bewildered and lost because their sense of identity. You know, I think all of us, to some extent, we find our sense of identity in what we do. And, you know, you can know better than that. You can fight against that, that bent towards lumping one's identity and value into what one does, or what one has. But we all fall into that trap at some point, because that is what drives, at least in the United States of America, that is what drives us. You know, what do you do, who you are? That's the first questions we ask a person. When we ask a person, who are you? We're really not asking them, who are you? We're really asking them, what do you do and what do you have? What bracket do you fit in? And so when all of that stuff unfolds, when all of that stuff is done, how do you reinvent yourself? You know, when the children you work so tirelessly to raise grow up and develop lives of their own and are not around. You know, you bought a house to house them, and now it's just you and your wife in that house, and it's really too big for you. You need to downsize. Or maybe you're by yourself. Maybe the children are gone and the marriage fell apart simultaneously. What do you do? How do you reinvent your life? Well, these are just some thoughts, and you can tell it's just inspired, because here's what I'm working from. These are my notes written on hotel paper. The Bible says in Romans 12:2, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the term conformed speaks of, as I've always taught, an external force, and I like to think of that external force as being societal pressures that cave in on us and miniaturize us. It boxes us into a certain existence, and it doesn't let us grow. It doesn't give us room to move. It says, okay, this is who you are. Stay here. Don't dare try to move or evolve. Transformation speaks of one growing or evolving from the inside out based on one's divine potential, what God put in you. Transform into that. It's the visual of a seed that is planted in the ground and begins to germinate, and then it buds, and then it grows, and then it produces fruit. And then that fruit produces another seed that buds and grows and produces more fruit. It's a constant evolution from the powers that are divinely established within a person to grow into something new all the time. And this is where I believe it's at this Romans 12:2 point, where we lack consciousness. I believe this is where we run into the midlife crisis thing. This is where we run into the midlife crisis thing. It's when we don't realize that we've been conformed, we've been locked in by the world and what the world thinks and says is right for us and is acceptable and what equates to success. That's the big thing on our minds. Am I a success? And when the world says, okay, well, you don't look like this anymore. You're not this age anymore. You're not in the limelight anymore. And society is driven by the lust for youth. You don't have all of that stuff. So crisis, what do I do now? Whereas if we understood that we're not here to conform to some fixed identity, some fixed place in life, some fixed state, but rather we're here to transform, to evolve from a seed to a plant, to a tree, to fruit, to another seed, to another plant, to another tree, to another fruit, to another seed. We're here to constantly evolve and constantly change into something greater, something more productive, and something new. But when your mind has been conditioned to believe that at a certain age I'm irrelevant, at a certain weight, watch this, some of you believe that if I get beyond this weight, I'm irrelevant. Or if I'm not making 6-7 figures a year, I'm irrelevant. Or if I have a public type persona that affords me my lifestyle and that goes away, I'm irrelevant. Oh man, I came to terms with that, with this after Hurricane Katrina, and everything that I'd worked on that I thought made me who I was washed away overnight by a storm, by floodwaters. And now I had to what? Reinvent myself. And it is out of that chaos, that crisis, that has given birth to most of what I am now. Because the honest truth is, had God not allowed that crisis to come, and had God not allowed all of the former existence that I had known and identified with to be washed away, I probably never would have evolved into the guy that I am today because I was comfortable in it. I so enjoyed everything that it afforded me, but there was more in me. And see, some of you are in the crisis state right now, where it feels like everything that is important and everything that makes you who you think you are is being swept away or has been swept away, and now you're sitting there trying to regather yourself. And what you're unconsciously, doing is you're searching for the former things, and they are to be no more. They are to be no more. When God is trying to change the direction of your focus to what's in front of you, and stop bemoaning what you think has been lost that is behind you, there's something greater that God is trying to get you to evolve into. But you have to, first of all, open your heart. Point number one, Open your heart to a new and better version. That's point number one in our discussion today. You have to open your heart to a new and better version. You have to first of all understand that the former conditioning of what you were taught that said to you, this makes you valuable, this makes you important, and this is who you are, and this is why you are who you are. Young people make this mistake a lot based on their sex appeal, based on their age, based on the smoothness of their skin, their youth, and they just don't understand that that stuff is fading away more quickly than they can imagine. And then they're going to wake up one day and all of that stuff is going to be gone, and they're going to sit in the lap of reality, and they're going to have to open their heart to a new and better version. Not just a new version of you, but a better version. And the reason that the next version of you, this reinvention of you, the reason it's better is because this is the version that possesses all of the wisdom, all of the lessons, all of the pain from the mistakes. Man, I often say, if it's almost like life is unfair. It's like you get to this age where you have all of this wisdom and you have all of this know-how and all of this experience, and you just don't have the energy to match it. When you're young and you have all of the energy to do it, you think you know what you're doing, but you really don't know what you're doing. So you blunder and you make a lot of mistakes. And I said, God, why? He says, well, the wisdom is the product of all of the mistakes you made in your youth. And so a man gets older. This is what made Solomon so phenomenal, was that he was a little kid praying for wisdom. But when you're young, most of us believe, society makes us believe that our youth, our good looks, and our energy are enough. Solomon was a young kid, and he was wise enough to know that his youth wasn't enough. He said, God, give me wisdom. And so point number one, you must open your heart to a new and better version. The guy that I was prior to Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, before all of my ministry was pretty much wiped out, is not the guy that sits before you today. Now, he was the seed, but this guy that you're looking at now is the tree. And had I not been, now watch this. This is the interesting thing. When you think about a seed, the Bible even says, except a seed be buried or planted, it abides alone. But if it be buried, it'll grow and produce. And I'm paraphrasing. You take a seed, and the seed has a season where it's out of the hand of the farmer, and it's buried in the ground, which feels like a killing of it. And that's where you are many times. We are when you're at a certain stage in life. Sometimes it's midlife crisis. Sometimes it's just a crisis in life even when you're young that changes your norm. And you feel like you're being destroyed. You feel like you're being buried. And the reality is that you're just being planted. And we plant things that they might grow and that they might maximize. So, but you have to open your heart. You have to be able to say something to this, something like this, in your own heart and out of your own mouth. God, I open my heart to everything you have for me in this season. And God, every false idea that has been planted in my mind about my value and my worth and my purpose that was not based on your divine ordinance, God, I cancel that now and I open my heart. What do you have for me in this season? Who am I now? What am I to do in this season? I'm open, God. Do a new thing in me. And this is where you get Isaiah 43:6, where he says, behold, I will do a new thing in you. And he's asked the question, he says, will you not know it? Are you going to allow me to do a new thing and you not realize it? Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? That means that God can actually You could very well be in a position where God has actually done a new thing in your life and you not realize it because you've not opened your heart to discern it. You're so locked in on what you think or what you thought life was all about that you're not really open to discern what God has already done in your life. And so watch this. You'll miss season after season after season after season until you do what Miles Monroe said. You end up in the grave, bringing to the grave all of the potential and the gifting and the purpose that God invested in you because you never recognized your season because you never opened your heart to it. You were so caught up on the relationship that ended that you thought would go the distance that you failed to open your heart to the new man or the new woman that God brought into your circle, but you failed, you missed it. But if you're going to reinvent yourself, and watch this, you're going to have to reinvent yourself a few times in your lifetime. You cannot maintain, okay, here's the illustration my brother uses all the time. You cannot bring an 8-track cartridge into an iPod generation. The music on the 8-track is there, but it cannot translate because there are no machines to play it. You can't even use a cassette tape in a car anymore. If you have a new one, they don't have them. Most cars they're making now don't even have CDs anymore. So you're going to have to reinvent yourself time and time and time again. And so some of this stuff that we're going to discuss is stuff that you probably need to jot down even if you're young. Because you ain't going to be young long. I don't care how much olive oil you use, you ain't going to be young long. And all that Botox, if that's your thing, do your thing. I ain't mad at you. I ain't hating on you. Everybody ought to do the best they can do, but that ain't going to keep you young. It may make you look a little better, make you look woke, But he says, behold, I will do a new thing. You got to open your heart to the new thing. You got to say, God, what is the new thing you have for me? I know that job ended, maybe even abruptly. Maybe it was even inconvenient at an inconvenient time. I know that's ended, but I walk by faith, not by sight. What is the new thing you have for me? I'm not going to look back and ponder the things of old. I'm not going to even consider the things of old. What is the new thing you have for me? God, show me. I want to see it because I don't want to miss it. And that's where you are. If I can get you to stop trying to resurrect the former season, I can open your eyes to the new season, the new and greater season that God has in front of you. Number 2, not only must you open your heart to a new and better version, but number 2, you must open your mind to learn something new. I heard a man say something. I was watching Iyanla the other night, watching a replay of her, and a man said something that just went all the way through me. He said, I'm too old to learn. She said, you're going to need to learn, sir. He says, I'm too old to learn. Other people are going to have to learn because I'm too old to learn. That was a statement that made me feel sorry for him. Because you really don't get, there's such a thing as age, but old is not a matter of calendar days or years or months or times or minutes or seconds or hours. Age is a matter of mentality. And you don't get old, or old rather is a matter of mentality. You don't get old until you come to a point in your life that you stop learning. You get old when you say, I've met some 30-year-old old people. I met some 40-year-old old people, 50-year-old old people, and some 80-year-old young people in college pursuing their degree. in their 80s. Because if you're going to reinvent yourself, you must open your mind to learn something new. And they'll admit it, most of my, what do you call it? People that, guys that are, that would be my age, do what I do. I forget what the term is for it. Colleagues, I don't know if that's a good word. It's not the word I'm looking for. But most of the guys that do what I do and are my age cannot reach this generation. Cannot reach them. It was one day that somebody came to me and said, Pastor, you got to do social media. I said, I don't need that. That's for young people. I don't want nothing to do with no social media. They said, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. And they went and started me a Facebook account. And I submitted to that new instruction. It was, watch this. It was set apart from my generation, but I learned it. And you know what? When I learned the information, when I learned the approach of a new generation, what happened was I recalibrated my life for a new season. See, there are a lot of you who are equating your age with your being old. You're not old until you become irrelevant. There are a whole lot of aged people who are yet relevant. And there are a lot of young people who are irrelevant. They're old, outdated. When something is old, it's outdated. When you tie into and you learn, open your mind to learn something new, you subsequently open up a brand new season over your life. I had to learn technology too. You live to learn. Like people my age in their 50s, I ain't got time to be trying to do all that. I'm trying to figure out how are you walking around here with a flip phone? I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to get that. You walking around here with a flip phone. People have smartphones and are making total livings off of smartphones, and you walking around here with a flip phone. If you walking around here with a flip phone, I'm not going to even say that because I know some of y'all got it, so I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. But just think about that. People have smartphones that they can take their phone and they can check whatever's going on around their house. Smartphones that if something happened with one of their family members, people can take their phone and show them exactly what's going on with the family member. They can talk to, and you walk around here with a flip phone. People trading and making deals and running businesses off of smartphones, and you walking around here with a flip phone because you say, I'm too old to learn all that. I ain't got time to learn all that. If you're going to reinvent yourself, and sometimes one of the worst things that can happen is for a person to come into too much money because people equate financial security with success, and it's not. You are utter failure if you die with any of the potential in you that God left. You may be a billionaire, but if God put potential in you that you bring to the grave simply because you refuse to reinvent yourself, you die a failure. In Luke 5:37, he says, it says, no man puts new wine into old bottles. And I'm paraphrasing now because clearly I'm right. I'm reading from this. No man puts new wine into old bottles. The bottle will burst and the wine will be spilled or lost. To reinvent yourself, you are going to have to open your mind to learn something new. That means what? You're going to have to pretty much to study under people who are probably much younger than you in a lot of cases. Some of you don't realize it, but your grandchildren are the source of your new season or the reinvention of yourself. While people say, my children can't tell me nothing, my grandchildren can't tell me nothing. There comes a season in your life when you need to be listening to everything they have to say. because they are the key to you reinventing yourself. Right? Okay, number 3. We're talking about reinventing yourself. Number 3, watch this. Incrementally implement the new knowledge. You don't have to watch this. You don't have to be bombarded and just think that you got to change everything overnight, but incrementally implement the new knowledge. Number 1, the new knowledge that will cause the reinvention of you, which will cause the new season to come about, is probably going to take you a while to grasp. So you take your time and you take it in from Holly Grove, where I come from, you take it in chunks and you consume it in chunks that you can manage. And you incrementally begin to implement the new knowledge. Don't try to do everything overnight because it'll overwhelm you. But if you just incrementally begin to implement the new knowledge, what'll happen is you'll begin to see the results that will begin to create, watch this, a momentum for you in a new direction. You'll begin to see a new identity, new capability, new potential beginning to, manifest in your life as you implement that new knowledge. Like they're steadily trying to teach me all of this stuff about social media. And I'm like, okay, give me this bit and let me digest this. Let me take this. And I incrementally implement it. Now I have people around me who are so expert. They're like, Pastor, you ready to move on? Let's get to the next thing. No, let me just work right here and let me somewhat get this, master this, and then I'll come back and then you give me some more. And sometimes, watch this. When we start talking about incrementally implementing the new knowledge, sometimes you have to be wise enough. And I guess this goes back under point number 2, opening your mind to learn something new. Sometimes you have to be wise enough to know when you need to pay for knowledge. There's some stuff that you learn through experience. There are other things that you will learn through counsel, through guidance. I'm trying to find the word. I'm searching for a word. Through instruction. So you have to be so forward thinking. What was, now I got to figure out what will be, that you say, okay, this is where I'm going. I got a new focus on my vision, a new vision. So I need to learn this. I'm not going to sit around here praying for God to open doors that I'm not prepared to walk. So I know I need to learn something about this. So let me find out who's an expert on this. And I'm not looking for the hookup. I'm not looking for the cheapest one on the thing. I need the best person that can teach me how to do this. And let me invest in myself. Because I'm doing what? Reinventing me. And as I learn it, I implement it incrementally. The things that I've started learning, and I'm still implementing it, in increments. Okay, now number 4. I don't know if I should mention this one. When you're reinventing yourself, and a lot of people, especially church people, well, let me just say, overly religious people probably won't like this one. But as you reinvent yourself, you have to simultaneously adjust your dress code. Because your dress code is your personal commercial to the world. And just about everything in life involves people. Purpose in life involves people, attracting people and then impacting their lives. If you're packaged the wrong way, people will pass you by. Okay, now let me give you an example. Nobody loves suits more than I do. I love suits. That was my generation. I love very good suits. I love very good shirts and wonderful ties and all of that. But the reality is I'm dealing with a different generation that even what we call dressed up now, corporate dress code now, for the most part, is probably a suit, maybe a suit, with an open collar shirt. But most people, if they're going to pay attention to you, you can't be three-piece down every day with, like I used to wear in the day, alligator shoes and big old knot around you. It's 120 degrees outside and all this kind of stuff. You have to dress you have to dress for where you plan on going. And you have to also dress to attract your audience. So this is why you see me on here with my baseball cap. And you see me chilling like this, which I really love this. This is the way I love. This is the way I like to roll. We are a come as you are church. Some churches have come as you are a day, a month. We are a come as you are ministry. Because any Sunday, I'm subject to be wearing tennis shoes and jeans because it ain't about all that. And I'm not trying to reach a bunch of old people like me and older who come from the three-piece suit era and all that and the alligator shoes and all this kind of stuff. I'm trying to reach these youngsters. I want these millennials. When they come on them, say, man, my millennials run up and say, Pastor, I like them. I like them true religions you got on. Them nice ones right there. They be buying me shoes. They keep me up on my shoe game and everything. Because you have to dress like your future. If you plan on having a future, you got to dress like it. I'll say this, pastors that want to reach, if you want to reach young people, some don't. You don't need to put out no promo with no suit and tie on and all this kind of stuff. You just don't need to do it. You definitely need to be putting on all the bishop stuff, all them robes and all them layers and all that kind of looking hot and everything. You don't need to do that. Not if you're going to put that out on a promo where you're trying to reach young people, if you're trying to reach them. Now, maybe you're not trying to reach them. Maybe you're just trying to reach the religious people. Maybe you're not even trying to reach lost people. Maybe you're just trying to reach religious people. So you do your thing. So let me leave you alone. But you got to dress like your future. There's some of you who are trying to reinvent yourselves, but you're looking like yesterday. You're looking like yesterday. And then finally, and let me let y'all go, you got to find someone who models what you want to be. You got to find someone who models. To reinvent yourself, you have to find someone who models what you want to be. Now watch this. This is what happens. Usually we get to this level where everybody's looking up to us. And then the times pass by and watch this. We fail to evolve because we got conformed. And so now we've been the standard and everybody's looking up to us. And then the times change and then we become irrelevant. Why? Because we failed to continue to grow. We failed to reinvent ourselves. And so now you're in this place where you got to reinvent yourself and you got to forget about all of the status and all of the popularity and all of the money and all of the success you had yesterday. That don't matter. That money is spent. That popularity is down the drain. It's a brand new generation that don't know nothing about you. They know nothing about you. They don't care nothing about what you did in the 80s and the 90s. Nothing do they care about you. You need to introduce yourself to this audience now. So watch this. Though you rose to the top of the heap in your season, in your generation, now you wake up and realize that all of that is over. Now I have to reinvent myself. Guess where you are? Even though this is the top of where where you come from, it's the bottom of where you're going. So now you got to stop looking down and you got to start looking up at the people who are in this season where you desire to be and go. I'll take Bishop Jakes for an example. It's amazing to me how people can pay attention to all of the things about a man that have nothing to do with what caused a man to be where the man is. Everybody wants to preach like Bishop Jakes. Everybody wants to get ready, 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 get ready. Everybody wants to preach like him. To the point that people steal his sermons and actually go and preach his sermons and think people don't know where that stuff come from. People know when you stole somebody else's sermon. Well, let me get away from that. I'm being petty now. Okay, now back to my point. If you go on YouTube and you follow Bishop Jakes' ministry over, I don't know, the part that we've seen, because a lot